now joined by a rather significant former Conservative MP. His name is Neil Parish. You may have seen his interview with Lorraine this week. And one day, Mr. Parish, we will move on from saying that you resigned as an MP because you were caught watching pornography in the Houses of Parliament. But of course, the fact that you did led to one of these by-elections, Tiverton and Honiton, yes, which your party, your Prime Minister, then lost. Then Oliver Dowden, of course, because it happened at the same time as the Wakefield by-election, he then resigned. And that was another crisis for the Prime Minister.
It seems ages ago now, but for Neil it must be still very, very...
It's only a matter of weeks.
It's still there, and of course it was a historic loss. It was, I think, the largest swing against the Conservative Party ever. Now, I plead guilty of the fact that I left, and I left under a cloud, but it was right to resign and do the right thing. But of course then it was very much a referendum about the Prime Minister and what was happening.
You resigned immediately, didn't you?
I did.
There and then.
But, you know, I think...
Quite unfashionable.
Quite unfashionable, and I think sometimes, you know, I talk to my wife, who's been a great supporter of me all my political life, I talk to my family, and do you try and, even though you've made a huge mistake and destroyed yourself, do you try and stand up again and be honest? And I think I did, and I did my damnedest. And I think this is the trouble with the Prime Minister's got. You know, it's, if you try to get the truth out of him, it's like taking a tooth from him, and you extract it. And when you've extracted it, you're not sure that you've got the right tooth, because, I mean, the pincher thing is absolutely typical of Boris, bless him, because he can't, you know, first of all, he leaves the whip with Pincher when serious allegations about him.
How do you feel about that? Because why treat you differently to Mr. Pincher?
I mean, this is sorry to laugh, but I mean, this is a man who's got a duty of care as a deputy whip, supposedly looking after us. I mean, they gave me no care at all. They threw me over the side of the boat and said, right, you know, sink or swim. And, you know, you've got the world's media there. And, of course, you know, it was a bad offence, but it wasn't a criminal offence. But it sort of captured the world's imagination, and a crazy thing to do. And so I had the whole farm surrounded by media. And, of course, the trouble with me is that over the years I had a great political career, though I say it myself, did the select committee well, held the ministers to account, because that didn't help me much either when the time came. And so they came into my space, you see. I had always kept the farm and the family separate, and they were in my face.
It still feels quite raw for you, doesn't it?
Well, you know, you've got a 12-year career, and, you know, I was a good constituency MP. Even the media, when they went down, the national media were amazed that people were still saying nice things about me. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And so you know, you've got to rebuild now. But I think as far as the Prime Minister's concerned, his time's up.
You did something which was dishonourable, right?
Yes.
We'll accept that. But then you did the honourable thing and resigned. Are you surprised that Chris Pincher has not done the same thing?
I'm not surprised, because don't forget he's got form on all of this, and so it's been a sort of over the years, and so
as we've discovered,
as he will try and drag himself, you know, through and stay. But you see, it's not so much, in my view, that he shouldn't have made physical contact on men and others who didn't want that physical contact. But the worst part is, you know, you will do well in the Conservative Party. This is a man that Chief Whip and Deputy Chief Whip, they do have quite a lot of control and power over the minor jobs in government. Ed, you would know that. And so therefore, like I said, this is so wrong. And you see, Boris first of all says, you know, he must stay, you know, keep the whip, whereas they took the whip from me when there were actually no formal complaints at all. And then, of course, a little bit later, oh, we will take the whip of one, but he's still a good guy. And then, you know, poor old Therese Coffey has to be wheeled out, and I'm very fond of Therese Coffey because she's a very honest lady. And there you are, you have her, you know, out there saying he didn't really know, and then next day another statement, the next day another statement, and then he comes out, doesn't he, eventually, and says, oh, well, you know, I did know all along. And you see the number of times I've been in that building over there in the committee room 14, and he bounces in and everybody's banging the desks like they do, because you know, it's a feudal system, they all want a job, and I mean, they can't. And he said, oh, I shall reform and I shall behave better. He can't tell the truth.
If there's a meeting today, I don't know if there will be, let's say there's a meeting this afternoon of all the Conservative backbenchers, and the Prime Minister bounces into the room and says, sorry about all of that, guys, but let's plough on together. What do you think the mood will be in the room?
Oh, I think they've had enough, because I mean, you've got people like Rishi and Savage who are really good people, and they've gone. Is it the last cabinet resignation? I doubt it. I mean, I know a lot of, I worked a great deal with George Eustace, as you would expect me, who's chairing the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee. I mean, George is fed up, really. I mean, I don't want to, portray too many confidences, but they're all fed up. I mean,
it's an interesting dynamic as well, isn't it? With if you're a cabinet minister and you resign too early,
yeah,
do you get blamed for starting it?
Yes.
But if you wait too long,
that's right,
can damage you for the future.
You see, they always say in politics, he that wields the sword or wields the dagger will never take the crown, you see. And so there's always, but you see, I think it shows the extent of which they, the pressure is built up. And you see, it's not really now, the trouble is, it is, as far as Boris is concerned, about Boris, but it's about the country, it's about having integrity, it's about making sure that we are a government that actually helps people through these crises of cost of living, inflation. Our businesses are facing huge costs. The economy is in trouble, and it's horrendous to lose a chancellor at this stage. But we will lose a prime minister. It's not if, it's when.
But also, not for you now, but for your colleagues in Parliament, it's also about, can the Conservative Party win the next election? And
yes.
6 months ago, they thought that was with Boris.
Yes.
What do they think now?
Yes, Ed, you've hit the nail on the head, because politicians of all sides, let's be blunt, vote for a leader who they think can win. The moment that leader is a loser, and I'm afraid Boris never been a loser before, but he has gone over, the seesaw has gone down now, and that's what the MPs will make a judgment on. But I think also, I think enough's enough. We've got to have some integrity, we've got to have some truth, and I think MPs will decide now that enough is enough. So it's not if, it's when.
In the confidence vote, how did you vote?
I voted to keep Boris, and I've liked Boris for a long time, but I do realise he has this inability.
Do you regret that?
I do now, actually, because you see, I also regret the fact that and I shouldn't be too personal about it, but I do regret because of the double standards of the way I've been treated.
Well, I just wonder whether
therefore,
people watching might think, well, actually, you're bitter because of what happened to you.
Yeah.
But how many of your former colleagues do you think might have changed their minds?
Oh, I think a number have. And you see, 63 majority sounds a lot of people, doesn't it? 211 votes to 149. But you see, it's only 32 people voting the other way. I imagine
do you think
he's
32
got rid of
people
I got rid of at least half that number,
right.
and more probably.
So if a confidence vote was held today, what do you think the outcome would be?
I think it would be very close, but I think it would probably be for him to go, and I think it would be so close that even if he won it, I think his position would be untenable. The problem you've got with Boris is that every other prime minister, every other politician would have gone by now, but he won't. He's re-established a new chancellor and a new secretary of state for health. It's business as usual. But you see, the problem is it's not about the big decisions. He's quite good on those, but it's about his character and can he tell the truth? And I've come to the conclusion he can't.
Of course, Margaret Thatcher said she'd fight on to the second confidence vote, but when the reality presented itself,
yes,
it was too much and she resigned.
Sometimes it takes a while to sink in. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you for having me on this morning.
Thank you.